super excited. We got our good friend Vince VICARI here. He's actually visiting from LA, and we've been talking about doing this for a long time, man. Thank you for finally coming through and making it happen.
Yeah, thank you.
It is beyond my honor, and it's a sincere delight. And so I know I'm the second guest on your podcast so far.
That's right.
So it means a lot to me that you guys invited me on and can trust me to have a good show with you guys. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no doubt, man. And yeah, the last show we had was with Max Griffin, UFC fighter. So shout out to Max. If you guys haven't seen that one, please go check out that interview. But yeah, man, we're super excited to talk to you, Vince, because we've known each other for a long time, and we've obviously been in the nightlife scene in Sacramento together. I've seen you perform a bunch of times, and you've come out to see us perform. And I just want to say, like, we just did a show in Avalon, Hollywood recently, and you came out to support us, and man, I just can't say how much we appreciate that.
Yeah, it means a lot.
For sure. No, I appreciate you guys, and I love just supporting, and especially like being from Sacramento, and just like we all got to help each other out, whether it's doing stuff on social media, in person, going to those events. And PS, like, I just love your guys' music regardless. So I want to go out there and dance and just like let go for a few hours. So
appreciate it, man.
Yeah, I had a hella fun time with that show.
Awesome. Thank you, man. No, it was great. I had so much fun too. And we both saw you out there and
going hard. And
I was trying to hype up the crowd. You know, I feel like
we appreciate it.
People need to loosen up a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, no, we appreciate that. And it was just dope to see somebody that we knew from Sacramento out there. You know, I was like, oh shit, hey, you know, there's Vince right there. So yeah, that was such a great time, man. Doing some research on you, trying to find out, you know, a little bit more about who Vince VICARI is.
Where did Vince come from?
You know what I mean? Like, you know, because I've never done that, right? I was trying to get a little prepared for the podcast, and there's just not a whole lot of information out there about you, surprisingly, because you're a very outgoing guy. So, you know, excited to just kind of talk about like your beginnings and stuff. Like, where did you grow up? You know, what was Vince like in high school? All that kind of stuff. Like, we'll talk about your family.
Let's start with let's start with the city where Vince.
Yeah, where did you grow up?
This tiny town called Jackson, California, which is here in like the foothills of Northern California. So kind of in between Sacramento and Lake Tahoe. So I grew up there. My parents grew up there. Like their parents grew up there. So it's like a really established kind of town, like legacy family. Like most families there have been there for generations. So that's where I grew up. And then I lived there until I moved to Sacramento, which is about an hour away for college. Went to Sac State, and then I've been in Sacramento ever since until I finally moved to Los Angeles in the beginning of 2020.
Right. Awesome.
So actually, you moved to Los Angeles at the beginning of
January.
January, so right before the pandemic.
Right before the pandemic. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, and that took me along. Like, so that's always been a goal of mine, just coming from my small town, and I have a lot of love and respect for Jackson and Amador County. But ever since junior high, I had always just felt like this isn't for me. Like the city life, like urban life, like diversity, like there's so much culture out there. And like listening to the radio back in the day, I used to listen to 102.5 KSFM and just like daydream in my room in Jackson, especially at night. They would have like Club 102. They'd be like mixing live from Empire Nightclub on Friday and Saturday nights. Like I was just a kid, like listening to that, like going to bed, like, dude, someday I'm going to be in the club. Like I'm going to be in Sacramento. Like I just want to be out there in the nightlife, meeting people, doing stuff. So I always knew I wanted to go live in a city and just get out and be part of the world. I kind of felt like Amador County is kind of its own little secluded world, which can be nice, but it doesn't always provide you a full experience of what's happening, you know, globally. And so I always wanted to do that. And then LA, I'm like, man, if I can move to LA, that'd be awesome. And when I lived in Sac, I had more and more friends moving down to LA, some with a plan, some without a plan, but they were making it regardless. So it took me 5 years to like get the courage and like saving money and kind of building the mental fortitude to be like, I can do this.
Yeah.
So, but when I finally moved to LA, it was January 2020. So I picked like the absolute most challenging time without knowing it. So,
but you're still down there. You're thriving.
I'm finally thriving. And I kept telling myself, like, yo, if you can survive LA in 2020, you can survive LA any other year. So I just kept like sticking it out.
That's 100%.
Because all the things I came down there to do, I wasn't doing any of those things because of how heavy 2020 was for all of the reasons that we know about. So I just had to be resilient and keep pushing through. And like, now I can finally get to start doing those things I came down to do.
Right. Absolutely, man. And it reminds me of a quote that I wrote down earlier. You know, adversity introduces a man to himself. I mean, talk about adversity and moving down there at a time when, you had all this planned out. I remember we talked on the phone and you talked about how you had stacked up some money and stuff. And then, you parted ways with Mayawel, right? Which is you used to sing at, right? So he used to sing. If you guys don't know, Vince used to be the singing waiter at this Mexican restaurant in downtown Sac. And so you parted ways there, but left on good terms and everything. And you had this all just like, you're very meticulous, very true to your astrology. Yeah. And so you did all that. And I was like thinking, hey man, you know what? I was talking to my brother about it. I was like, Vince is going down to LA and stuff. I mean, I have so much respect for that and admiration because sometimes you got to get out of your comfort zone to grow and to go somewhere, and to pursue something that you really dream of, and that for you is probably, I guess, entertainment, right?
Yeah, full on, because you sing, you write your own music. I mean, you do it all, right?
Yeah, and it's just me. That's just really who I am naturally. I sincerely love people, and I love entertaining people, making them feel good. Yeah, and that really is. I've done a lot of reflecting in the past couple of years, like, why am I doing this? But I just feel it's so fulfilling to me to be on stage and seeing people have a good time and having people feel good about themselves and feel good where they are in their life. And that really brings me a lot of fulfillment in return. And so I'm a musician. I grew up in a household. My dad plays the drums. I play piano. I have two brothers that play guitar and piano. Nice. So I grew up in an incredibly musical household. That's dope. And I grew up just like absorbing so much music, both like on TV with music videos and just like CDs and all that back in the day. That like I always just daydreamed of doing music, but at the core of it, I just love entertaining people, whether it's me just telling a joke or dancing or doing something on stage or doing like a podcast or a radio show. Like I just love to entertain people and I love to connect with people and connect people together. Yeah. That's like kind of like what brings me a lot of fulfillment.
So would you say that's kind of what drove you to get through those tough times?
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I would say
what drove
that.
you? What was your motivation?
Like by tough times, do you mean like
when you went down to LA, for example? I mean, you just were kind of thrust into a whirlwind. Where like the city just kind of like just functionally shut down, and people were really scared. There was like this paranoia that just kind of went through the community. And how did you? So I mean, like the reason why I ask is because we all went through a lot in the last couple of years and stuff, and we all kind of deal with adversity differently. Now you could have folded, but you chose to stay. What were like some of the motivating factors for you to just like kind of tell yourself to get through it? And what's driving you?
First and foremost, like people, but I think that I realized like I was constantly outreaching to my friends and to my family, especially during like the peak pandemic when things were super heavy. But now that we're on the other side of that, like peak pandemic, looking back, like I think I was subconsciously doing that for myself too. Like I was always outreaching to people. There were some nights I was having like multiple Zoom calls a night with different friends. Yeah. But I'm looking like I need that. I need that energy. I need to have that connection with people. And I had 2 roommates in 2020 and then just 1 roommate since. And we had each other, but like I realized like I just love people and I need to have that constant stream of communication and connection. And I think that's what kept me going. But I was telling myself like I need to do this for them. I need to check in on them. I need to check in on this person. But I realized that was also like doing something for me to make like me feel like I'm good and feel like to make me feel balanced. And also, there were some things in my life where I'm like, oh, I should work on that. Oh, I'll get to that. I'll get to that. The pandemic gave me that chance. Like, here's all the free time that you have. To like do some self-reflection and try and do some self-improvement. Because, I'm always trying to be the best person I can be for others, but I have been putting everyone else ahead of me. And I realized like I need to also make some time for me. And that's been a lot of time spent to get me through the pandemic, to be like, no, I need to be kinder to myself, to do those self-care things, to really pay attention to what my needs are and not just devote my entire life to everyone else. Because I love people so much. And just, I think in the family that I grew up in, I just am so used to like being what others need me to be or what I think they need from me that I can kind of forget what does Vince need? Like what can Vince do for Vince? So that's kind of what got me through the pandemic also.
So is this like something that your family raised you with in terms of values, or is this something that's innate that you just kind of, in terms of the people, reaching out to the people, the family, just everyone that you're involved with, where you, like you said, it's like, you have to talk to people. You have to get out there and you feel like in a sense, I feel like you've helped a lot of people.
I recall being really young and my parents would like get on our case. Cause like, you know, older, like if you like go to the church or the grocery store or whatever, or like some family party and there's like an elder, you know, like a grandma or someone says something to me, my parents would be like, say thank you, talk to them. She's talking to you, like engage. Like, don't just be like a shy little kid. Like if someone's giving you their attention and their time, like respond to them. So I think that's a little bit of that. As I grew up in a really like outgoing, like communicative household, especially with my dad, who's like just really charismatic and really inclusive with people. So I think that I picked that up a lot from him. But I think that the other part of it is that's just me. Yeah. Like I actually like recently watched like a home video of me at like my like 8th birthday party or something. And like I have a little birthday party and some kid won a prize. My mom's filming and I go up to my mom like, Mom, can we get her a prize? Mom, we need to get her a prize. Like we need to give her something. Like I'm just like so concerned about making sure everyone else feels good. Yeah. I think that that's just me. And I've just always been that way. Yeah. But I love people so much that like I just want to make sure that they're good. And then like if you really want to get meta deep with it, to be like even more candid, like I think there's something a little bit more to that I'm hoping to get that back from people. Yeah. In a roundabout way that I don't think I was really able to recognize or admit to myself, that like I want to get that back. But I don't want to expect it or ask for it. But it would be great if I could get that kind of attention and that love and that mindfulness toward me. So like I'm realizing now, you know, getting into therapy and stuff since the pandemic, like I think that's kind of what I yearn for as well. Yeah. So yeah, interesting stuff.
I think that is fascinating. Yeah. So and you said you're a middle child, right? Yeah. So do you think that kind of has something to do with it?
I think so. And I'm a full middle child. I'm a huge I'm so proud of it because people will be like, oh, I'm a middle child. Like I'm one of 4 kids. And I'm like, no, you're not like a full middle child. Like a middle child is like one of 3 or 5 or 7. So I'm the middle child of 5 kids. So there's 2 young, 2 younger, 2 older. Yeah. And my older brothers are like closer in age. And there's a gap between me and them. And then my younger siblings, my brother and sister, are a little closer in age. And there's like a little bit of a gap between us. So I you know, it wasn't planned, but like it's just kind of how it came out that I've kind of just established my own independence because I felt like my older siblings did a lot of stuff together. They lived together like in college and after college. And then my younger siblings do a lot of stuff together. And I kind of was just on my own like wavelength, just doing my own thing and carving my own path. Like I've always just felt very independent. And I heard that that's often the case with a lot of middle children. Like you kind of just do your own thing.
Yeah. That makes sense. I mean, because you're right smack in the middle. So I was going to ask like, did you feel like you were kind of the odd man out a lot of times when your siblings were, you know?
Always.
Okay.
And I don't know if that's just like a condition of being a middle child, but I've always felt like different or the odd man out. And I'm like, whatever you guys want to do. I was like, yeah, let's just do that. That's cool. No, it's cool. Like I just felt like my interests and the way I live my life, or like the clothes I wear, like the friends I have, like what I like to do is so vastly different. But then I'm like, is that a middle child thing or is that just a me thing? Because the life that I'm living and the path that I'm pursuing is very, very different from my siblings and my family. And that's okay. But like I'm, you know, leading a very public life and doing a lot of like entertainment things. And that just brings me a lot of joy. And I think that I'm really naturally good at that. So I'm trying to tap into like, what am I good at and like, I enjoy it versus trying to do something that I'm not very good at and I have to try extra hard. But with the rest of my family, they're cool. They're outgoing, but like, they don't have that desire or that passion to like, do stuff publicly. Like we are right here, like doing a podcast together, you know?
Yeah. You know what? You bring up an interesting point. Cause I'm wondering the fact that like my brother mentioned, you said you felt like the odd man out a lot of times. So the fact that of course you said it made you become very independent, but at the same time that probably drove you and motivated you to pursue all these things that you're really good at, right? Like the singing or the dancing or, you know, the performing, right? The whole nine, because it felt like the fact that you're by yourself. And a lot of times it's like, I got to just take the bull by its horns and just go full on with it.
Yes. And like, so as you're saying that, I'm like debating, there's something in my head. I'm debating about speaking on it or not, but like, I think that I'll speak on it because it's been like, well, let's just go there and get like vulnerable. And it's stuff I've been working on in therapy. Yeah. But you know, the environment in which you grow up in can really affect you in a positive or a negative way. And my family was kind of this like noteworthy family. I'll just say it and let's just see how it goes. But so my family won the lottery like right before I was born. And that sounds great or fun or fantastic, but it's actually like very stressful. And like, I'm realizing that I have such like trauma from that because all of a sudden it thrusts my family into this spotlight.
Were they on TV and all that?
I don't know. I wasn't alive.
Was it a scratcher? Or?
I don't know.
Okay.
Like but it's become so much of a pressure, like, or a stressful thing. Like we as a family have really never talked about it.
I've never met someone in
I know.
my entire life.
And but like honestly, I'll tell you guys, like
awesome.
This is one of the first times I'm saying this, and especially publicly, because it's been so stressful for me, and that has really defined who like not that I want it to be. Like other people have defined me and my family only by that, and that's been really hard to overcome. And like the way I found out about that was through a kid at school when I was like in the 3rd or 4th grade.
Yeah,
just telling me this stuff, and I'm like, "What are you even talking about?" And I came home and told my parents. But like that's how I found out.
Wow.
Yeah, but like
it's interesting.
But I realized that kids would treat me differently because their parents would tell them something about me and my family, because of some kind of an assumption, because we are that family that like won the lottery.
Yeah. Right.
But because of that, I grew up just like kind of always having this extra attention on me that maybe a normal kid wouldn't have. Plus, we're in a very small town,
and everyone knew, right?
Yeah. And like people knew even before I knew. Like I was just a regular kid living my life. Like I don't know, you don't know what your family has going on. Like it's however you grow up is normal to you because you don't know any differently. But I've always felt like being under the public eye, and I felt like the pressure was on, and I think my family felt that pressure to really be like really a good example and be just to come correct and present well, because everyone was always like had their eyes on us for better or for worse.
Interesting.
So to be totally honest with you guys, like I know that there's a part of that has driven me to pursue these things that I'm interested in. I'm like, well, I'm already so used to being this public figure. Like I have to be on my best behavior always.
Yeah.
When I'm at school, when I'm at like a basketball game in the crowd, or like I'm at a grocery store, like random people will come say things to me sometimes, so I don't even know who they are, but they know who I am. Yeah. And I'm not trying to say that like in an arrogant, conceited way, since I've been talking about this in therapy, it's like a really interesting, I've never spoken about this to anyone until I started doing therapy, just because like that, I would meet people. I remember I met this family friend, this dude, I met his girlfriend. She and I both started at Sac State, and I don't know anybody at Sac State, and I go to meet her in her dorm. And I'm like, finally, I'm out of Amador County. Like I can just like write my own chapter and be my own person and not have other people define me for me. Yeah. And I meet up with that friend's girlfriend in the dorms. And like one of the first things she says is like, "Oh, this is Vince. His family won the lottery." And I'm like, dude.
Oh, man.
Because people would instantly just like define you as that. And that's all it is for them.
Yeah.
And like, cause it's so unusual and fascinating and rare, because like, people don't usually meet someone like that. But like, it's really painful and stressful, because like I want to just be myself and get to know me for my interests and like what I bring to the table as an individual with like my personality. And like, so that was really hard to overcome. So I'm just like, dude, I'm never speaking about this ever again. And so I know it's like a long answer, but just like, I know that part of that is like, I just feel like my whole life I've been so conditioned to have to be like a good example and a good representation of my family, that like being that like out in the public, even if it's in a small town, like I'm just so used to it that like doing public stuff like this, like being on the radio or performing on stage, like it's just so natural to me at this point. But I also like, I really enjoy it. I love entertaining people, but that's kind of where I think it comes from. It's like, that's kind of all I know in a way, is to just like, present well and be my best and represent my family well. But also like, if people are going to be chismoso or like gossipy, as they say in Spanish, like, like, okay, if you're going to like talk about me and look at me anyways, like I'll give you something to talk about. Like, let's do some music. Let's be on TV. Like, let's do some fun stuff that the average person doesn't get to do or doesn't know how to do. So I think a little bit of that has driven me also.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, that's super fascinating.
Yeah.
I had no idea about that, but it makes a lot of sense now that I'm thinking, in terms of just the entire context. I mean, just the fact that, you have this drive to want to entertain, and then you also handle pressure well, like when when the spotlight's on you and stuff, and it's go time, you're there to perform, and you're all smiles, and people are feeding off that and stuff. So it makes a lot of sense that this is what kind of culminated in.
It's almost like a lot of pressure growing up at the same time, like
a lot of pressure, and I can relate too. I mean, in a lot of ways, my brother and I, because we come from a smaller town called Redding,
Okay.
That's where we're originally from.
Some
Damn, I know about that
similarities
place.
there, right?
Yes.
You know, Redding and Jackson.
Totally.
I've been to, Jackson. I've, been out there, Spring Valley, San Andreas and stuff.
Okay.
So I'm familiar with Amador County a little bit. But yeah, growing up in Redding, like a smaller city and stuff. I mean,
everyone knows your business.
Yeah,
everyone knows everyone, right?
Everyone knows what your parents do or whatever. Like our dad had a business up there, and everyone knew his business.
Yeah. So I mean, if you do something good or do something bad, the word can spread fast, right? Or if you come from a prominent family or whatever, a lucky family, then you got all these eyeballs on you. For my brother and I, we could relate to you because my dad had a martial arts boxing and kickboxing school in Redding, like pretty much all our lives. So I had this automatic like kind of pressure on me and an unwanted attention on me because they're like, oh, that's the karate kid or that's the dude that from VRDGO's martial arts and stuff. And so because of it, it
was good and bad.
It was good and bad. It was a mix.
People wanted to fight us because of it.
Sometimes people want to test. They want to test, especially the older kids and stuff. But a lot of our peers, they didn't want to. They just didn't even want anything because they were afraid they're going to get their butt kicked or something like that. So it was an interesting dynamic. I could sense early on that some people were being cool to me because of that. But at the same time, I just wanted people to know me and to like me for me.
Yeah.
Not for what our dad or
exactly.
And
that's hard. And what I'm learning in therapy, like that's trauma, dude.
Yeah.
Like I thought trauma was like being like physically abused or like, like sexually abused. And like, to me, like that's trauma. Like that's serious stuff. But I'm realizing in therapy, and I'll go as deep into that as you guys want to, but I'm like, there's little things that happen to us as kids. That's inevitable. Our parents do our very best, but there's just random things that pop up, but that sticks with us.
Oh, for sure.
In our adolescence. And we try and find a way to like recover from that trauma. And then as an adult, something pops up, it reminds us of that from our adolescence. And like, we still have that triggered response to try and like deal with that trauma. So like, it's part of a trauma, like having to deal with stuff like that.
I would absolutely agree. And trauma comes in all different forms,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
And, so I mean, I would agree. That's definitely traumatic, because it affects you, gives you anxiety and stuff, and makes you feel some type of way. And at the same time, you're still growing, you're adjusting, your brain's still developing into your 24, right? So I mean, you're trying to figure it out, and you're trying to like, figure out a way to finesse situations to get somebody to like you for you, instead of just, judging you based on what they know about you or your family.
Or what people told them about you.
What people told you about them and stuff. And so like my brother and I, we've been dealing with that, all our lives and stuff. And then eventually we got into like promoting electronic music events. First it started with hip hop.
Okay.
But then we started doing electronic music events. And then it was a different kind of attention because it went from just throwing these small parties to just, over time they started to grow and they were spreading to like different high schools, like the word about, like what we were doing. And then all the different colleges we had, Chico State, Shasta College, like all the, colleges in the Northern California area we would be promoting to and stuff. So the word spread and then the parties got bigger and then the attention kind of changed, so like now we had all these people that were, wanting to be friends with us and stuff because we were the guys that were throwing the rave events and you know how that goes. But it's been an interesting dynamic to just kind of like be thrust into that almost in a way. And then just learning how to deal with that. And then as I, have gotten older, looking back now, I can understand, why, I am who I am now. And, also like some of the things that the trauma, realizing that it was kind of traumatic, to kind of deal with this unwanted attention, I mean, a lot of it was good. I mean, and for sure we all are seeking attention because it's validating, right? But no, for sure. I mean, I wrote something down that, kind of relates to what we're talking about. This quote that says, overcoming your trauma is the prerequisite to your purpose. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, that resonates with me because I realize everyone's trying to find their purpose in life.
Yes.
And whether they admit it or acknowledge it or not, like we all want to feel like we belong, like we have a purpose in life. Whether your purpose is to be a parent or to own a business or to raise kids or to do it like breed or rescue dogs. Like you all want to find that purpose and people struggle with that. But sometimes we get caught up because of the trauma that like, we'll think, well, is this my purpose because they tell me it is, or because like I feel obligated to do this? But like you have to get to the root of who you are and what brings you fulfillment. And I recognize, as I'm like more older in my adulthood, like I do feel fortunate that I've known since like junior high age that I wanted to entertain people. Like that brings me fulfillment. And I really do feel that that's my purpose. Yeah. And the more I meet people, I realize I'm like, I'm kind of, not everyone realizes that in the early part of their life, not even in the 20s or 30s or 40s or 50s. So I feel like I'm very fortunate in that way that I am in tune with myself to know like what I know what my purpose is in life. But like you have to figure that stuff out. What was the first part of that quote? Like adversity?
Yeah, so overcoming your trauma.
Yeah,
overcoming your trauma is the prerequisite to your purpose.
Yeah. No, and I feel like I've always been pretty self-aware of myself and introspective. So I've just been aware, just growing up the way I've had to grow up, but I'm not perfect. I'm never going to say like, I know all the answers to help me be better. But like, I do think that was pretty introspective, my life growing up, but then like getting into therapy and then like breaking down those walls to feel okay to be vulnerable, even with you guys, my friends, talking about what is shared that I've never shared publicly because it's so traumatic like that. Speaking about that helps really, unblur the lines of like what my purpose is and really help bring my life into focus more of like, I'm doing this for me and it's makes me feel good. I'm not doing it for other people.
Yeah.
So yeah, that really resonates with me.
Okay. So, you just said something like pretty powerful. If I can like have you kind of crystallize that a little bit more. Okay. So basically not running from who you are, right? And kind of dealing with the traumatic events head on has helped you to figure out your purpose. Is that what I'm hearing? Or how could you unpack that a little bit more?
Yeah. And like dealing with your stuff, like it just, like for me, it's like, you got to keep it real with yourself.
Keeping it real, right? That's exactly what it is.
We all have things in our head where it's like this. And like, no, it's not that, bro. We're cool. Just keep going. But like that pops up again. Like, no, it's not that. Like you got to keep it real with yourself. And that's what I've done like here and there throughout my life. I'm not saying like out the gate, 18 years old, like I'm dealing with all the shit that like, bogs me down and stresses me out. But like little by little, I'm like, oh, okay, I should look at that. I should reflect on that. I should pray on that, whatever. Like, so little by little, I've been doing that, but like, you have to just keep it real with yourself. At the end of the day, you can talk to friends, you can talk to family, you can talk to your partner, but like, you need to have that alone time to just reflect on what you have going on in your heart and in your head and just build that mental fortitude with yourself. If that is more like of a definition for what you're asking for.
No, thank you. Yeah, thanks for clarifying that. Just because I think it's super important. We have to really, and like you said, it's important to have alone time to recharge your batteries. And to kind of reassess things and to look at your life introspectively, because we can get so caught up in the distractions. You know what I mean? Social media and just all the drama that's going on in the news, in the world, et cetera. So it's important. I mean, I find myself doing that quite a bit, and sometimes it's in the shower too. I ain't gonna lie. Sometimes I'll take extra long showers because I'm just like, that's where like a lot of thoughts just are pouring, like just coming out. And, I have a lot of ideas too. So I do a lot of reflection in the shower. Totally. I don't know how you do it, but I mean, is meditation something that?
Yeah. What do you usually do?
What I realized, like, I go jogging and running. I try and go once a week. Okay. Don't think that I'm like a professional runner or anything, but like, I just do it for like my like lung capacity mainly, but like I'll go for like an hour run. And once I get into this, it maybe takes me like 15, 20 minutes sometimes to hit that stride. And I am listening to music, but like, I feel like I reach a point where my brain like relaxes and opens and I'll have a lot of thoughts, whether it's creative stuff for music or just like, oh, that conversation I had with my roommate the other day, with my brother the other day, like, what does it really mean? How do I really feel about that? Like, but like running, kind of opens me up in that way. And then I've gotten into meditation super casually because I know it can sound weird or daunting or like meditation, but like I picked like a little 10-minute guided meditation. I'm like, let me just try this stuff. During the peak of the pandemic, I'm like, I obviously need to chill out. I make sure I'm okay. But like even just doing a little like 10-minute meditation to relax my brain and just like have a thought, process it, think about it, and like sit with it and then keep going. Like those are two things I think that have really helped me, but like running for sure. I try and go once a week, just and I make it like my whole Saturday morning. Like I want to get up early, go run on the trail. And even when I'm done, like just be by myself for that next hour. If I'm driving home and I'm like coming home to like eat cereal or water plants, like I'm just like finishing that stream of thought I had with running. And that has helped me to kind of like clarify and define things, especially about myself.
That's interesting. Yeah. And why do you think that is? I mean, because obviously running an hour is a long time. I mean, how many miles are we talking? I clocked it once because someone went with me one time. Like a friend went with me and actually like ran with me. But I think it's about 5 miles. And I don't run for like mileage. What I really do, honestly, okay, good tie-in for you guys because we're here. Like I would just try and find like an hour mix. Yeah. Just like, I'm just going to run until this mix is over. And so coincidentally, your guys' podcasts where you guys put your mixes out on SoundCloud, like that's how I started doing that, especially during the pandemic. Seriously. That like you guys would have those like 45, 50 minute, like hour and 2 minutes, like
continuous DJ mix.
Yeah, right? Dude. And I would run my ass off to that stuff. And so I'm like, I'm going to stop when this mix is over. Like that was my whole motivation is music. I'm not trying to do miles. I'm not trying to do time. Like, I want to hit X amount of miles by like 45 minutes. I'm just like, VRDGO Brothers dropped an episode 80, whatever. It's a 1 hour mix. I'm going to run to this entire mix, whether it's like jogging, sprinting, something in between. That's what I would just do. And it would just like get me motivated. And I would get all these thoughts in my head. It started with like performing. Like if I'm on stage, I would do this. I want to write this song with these lyrics at this point in the chorus, because on stage or in a music video, like I would do this visually. And those are the thoughts I would have. But then other thoughts would be like collaborating with a friend, or like getting back to my parents about something, or talking to my coworker about something. So that's kind of how it all started for me. Then I like realized like I feel really good. Like I'm feeling so like satisfied with life coming out of those runs. And it's for exercise, but it's also for mental health.
Yeah,
why I do that. Okay. So I'm realizing that's like a really big benefit.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Exercise is one of the best natural medicines we can
for the brain, man.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Stress, the brain, like you said.
Yeah, one of my personal observations too is that a lot of successful people, they run or they exercise, and it's super important. My brother and I realize how important it is, and we're trying to exercise as much as we can, 5-6 days a week.
Just keep the stress levels down.
Yeah, stress and just a mental fortitude. Yes. Right? So it's super important. So, I mean, this is dope, man, because these are just keys. These are things that other people are probably not doing that they know they could be doing. And it's easy to just start implementing those things. You don't have to run for an hour the first time, right? But you just ease into it.
Just go for a 20-minute walk.
Just get it going.
So when the pandemic first started, and I just moved to LA, and I'm like, what is my life? Like I came down here to like rot. like I came down here with all this momentum, and the pandemic starts. I'm in this box. This small apartment that's not really designed for people to be in for most of the
trapped
day,
in, right?
Right.
But like, luckily I lived in a complex that is like really like it backs into the Griffith Park hillside. So I was just exposed to nature.
A lot of nature. The ducks, right?
Yeah, we had a neighbor that had a duck. Yeah. We have deer and coyotes.
Yeah.
And like P.S., I grew up like in a forest for the first part of my life back in Jackson. Like we grew up on 121 acres. That's not a flex. I'm saying that to say I live in the middle of nowhere. Like you go outside, you don't see other houses, you don't see other people, you just see nature. And so I always joke with people like now as an adult, like I'm an indoor enthusiast, like I'm an urban enthusiast. Like let's go hiking. I'm like, no, I've had enough nature. Like I'm good. I love nature. I respect nature so much. I don't even want to be in it. Like that's how much I respect nature. But like with the pandemic, I'm like going on a walk and just seeing trees and hearing birds and like seeing even like a raccoon or something, like that did so much for my mental health. I would go on a 45-minute walk. I wouldn't even like time myself, but like I just need to go out and walk.
Yeah.
And that did so much for my brain just to go for a walk for 45 minutes. I'm not trying to like burn calories or like hit some kind of like muscle definition or something. I was just trying to walk. And that really helped keep me like a little bit under control and help build that mental fortitude. Like, hey, we're good. By the end of the jog, like, or the walk, you're good. Everything's fine. At the end of the day, everything's going to be okay. You're going to figure it out. The universe will still be in line with you. Just be open to that. Be open to yourself. You'll be okay. And that's what I would get out of those walks every morning.
Right. That's great. Another thing I want to ask you about too, because I listened to some of your podcast on the Grown Man Sessions.
Oh yeah.
So shout out to Grown Man Sessions.
Yeah.
And that was really interesting.
Timothy Rhyme.
Shout out Timothy. So, and you said something interesting on that podcast. You said that you'll sometimes surrender yourself to the universe. And you talked about detours and not roadblocks and stuff. So I wanted to kind of touch on that, because I feel like you know, all too often, you know, certain things will happen in our lives, or you'll have certain signs or coincidences that sometimes can't be explained, but they come at the right time and stuff, you know? So, but I feel like in order for that to happen is a lot of times you have to just, you have to surrender yourself to the universe to just kind of let things just kind of fall where they may. You want to talk about that a little bit?
We can talk about that. Yeah. I think like coming out of college, I realized I would often have like a pessimistic or negative mindset when something had happened to me. I get upset. I'd be like, why is this happening to me? This shouldn't happen to me. I'm a good person. Like, here's this setback. But like I started trying to think about it in a positive way of like, okay, this was whatever I thought should have happened for me or to me didn't. But like I have to change the way I think about that and respond to that. Like that wasn't for me at this moment. Like the universe and God have something else in store for me. So I have to like acknowledge that and be cool with that. That it's just, I'm still going to my destination. It's just a different path. And not be like, oh, this is the end. Like, hey, I'm not making music anymore. Or like, I'm just not going to move to LA. Or like, I'm just not going to be able to like, you know, accomplish that goal to make X amount of money to like make that music video. There's always a way to do it. It's just not always the way you think it has to be done. And so I have to had to let go. And that's the Virgo tendency of being such a perfectionist and such an organizer. That's what I identify with, is like, you'll still get there. You just have to know that like there's more out there helping you on your path, and that you aren't alone, that the universe is there kind of helping you ebb and flow. Because the example for me that I was realizing going on those walks in the pandemic, because I came down to LA with so much momentum. I dropped my debut EP. I had a huge show. I went to Indonesia and did shows. I filmed a music video out there. Like 2019, I had so much positive, huge, like the most momentum I've had in my artistic career. And I'm like, perfect. I'm bringing all this on my back, and we're going to LA, and we're going to keep doing this. And I was applying for any kind of entertainment job, to even like to be someone's assistant or social media manager, just like to do something to get in there, and like striking out. It's cool. I kept applying. The pandemic arrives, and I'm like, it keeps going. Then I realized on one of my walks, I'm like, you know what? I'm so grateful I didn't break into the industry when I first got here, because I would have been kicked out on my ass. Because once the pandemic started, all that stuff shut down.
It did.
There was no music venues. No one's trying to pick up or promote artists because no one knew what to do or how. So if I had gotten in super quick, I would have been booted out just as quick, because what are they going to do with me? Like, and I'm a brand new talent. If I were to get signed to some label or some distribution or some management company, or get picked up to even be an employee for somewhere, they would have dropped me. And so then I'm like, okay, that was the universe looking out for me, being like, dude, we're not getting into this right here and now, because with this pandemic, like that wouldn't have worked out for me. I would have been like in a much worse off position than I was, because I came down there, I quit my day job to be like, okay, I'm finally doing all entertainment, all music stuff. And then that didn't work out. And I'm back to having a day job right now, which I'm actually very grateful for. But I'm also seeing that day job does have some doors that do lead into the entertainment and the public path. So I'm like, okay, this job that I wasn't even trying to get, I have that. And now that I see that job is a detour to the end point that I'm still trying to get to. And so it's like, you have to just you have to think that way, and not just be like, well, damn it, I wanted to go there, and I'm just going to be pissed off at this for the next 6 months, 2 years. Like, you have to be like, hey, that didn't work out because something else is coming for me. So part of it is a mindset that you surrender to the universe, and you have to be okay with that, because I always thought I would have, well, by 25, this is what's going to happen. I'm going to, I can be there or get nominated for a Grammy or get signed to a record label. And as things are going on, like, especially in pop music, like, even like being signed to a label isn't always a good thing, especially nowadays, because there's so much more to it, where you have to be on TikTok all the time, or you have to have X amount of followers, that it's not just about you being a really good songwriter or you being a phenomenal entertainer. Like, there's more to it. And I'm like, I don't even know if I would be okay with having to be forced to do that path. So I'm still comfortable and content and proud of myself with where my life is going. And so that's that mindset I feel like you have to kind of work on getting into, of a surrendering to the universe, and knowing that like the universe, that God, like there's more out there that is helping you, even if you feel alone and helpless. Like, that's not the case. You have to know and believe that like there's still more like encouraging you and like kind of cushioning you toward your path.
It's kind of like that quote from Dr. Wayne Dyer. It says, stay in the process and let the universe handle the details.
No, that's a great one. Yeah, one of my favorite quotes.
Yeah, kind of like
stay in the process, let the universe handle the details. Another one too is like when you conspire with the universe conspires with you.
Yeah,
it's very similar.
Yeah, and so I think what you guys are saying for people listening and watching this is like, you can't just sit back and be like, "Hey, universe, let's go." You still have to be putting in that work,
absolutely,
and going in that direction. So you still have to be stimulated mentally and physically. Be like, yes, I want to make music. We want to have these shows in Hollywood and wherever. Like, you still got to be working toward that, and then like that energy like lines up with the universe's energy, and then that
right,
and that will reward you.
Yes, well, and then, like, and the universe wants to do that. You know, like all the forces that be out there, it wants to help you be successful and fulfilling and to feel good about your life.
Absolutely.
So you have to think about it that way, that the universe or God or people aren't trying to keep you down. Like, you got to work to avoid that negative mindset. And that's what's been able to, I think, because on Timothy Rhymes' podcast on Grow Man Sessions, because like he asked me questions like, oh, you know, what's your secret sauce and your recipe? And I'm like, dude, I don't know. Like, I'm just doing my life. But
you said something on that podcast too about, obviously come to the realization you don't compare yourself to others in terms of.
I try not to.
Yeah,
it pops up once in a while. I'm not going to lie.
It's easy for us to do that
as humans.
But at the same time, it's like we're all on a different path.
Right.
But like no one had really ever asked me about like what's your secret sauce. But like it really made me start to think about that part of who I am, and because I'm all concerned about I want to be stuff for people, but like who am I for myself?
Yeah.
And I recognize I've really always had like a positive attitude and a positive outlook on life. And maybe to the point I feel like my parents would call me naive or like disillusioned a little bit. But like I realize I kind of see that as I haven't let the weight of the world and the negativity like dominate my life. Yeah. And I think that's what has helped me. That is why I am the way I am and have been able to get to where I am, is I've just for some reason always had this like positive chipper mindset. And honestly, that's never been challenged. I've never been challenged before until the pandemic.
Oh yeah.
Because like people be like, Vince, you have all this energy, you're always doing things, you're always in a good mood. I'm like, well, yeah, like I love life and I love people, but like I've always had that in me. And I think that I also like kind of a different topic, but like people talk about their inner child or like not losing that. Like I realized in the pandemic too, like I am so strongly connected to my inner child that like that's never left me. And I think that is also a big part of how I've been able to keep going and do what I'm doing. Because I'm like, my inner child is so stoked with what I'm doing because I wanted to be out in the world and be connected with cultures and meet people and do stuff with music. And like I'm doing my inner child proud. I feel like that part of me is still along for the ride with me. And that inner child is like eternally happy and positive and optimistic. And I think that has helped me to navigate the trouble spots of life. Is to, at the end of the day, I still have that positive attitude.
Yeah.
I think that mental state goes a long way.
Oh, super. Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that. That's powerful stuff, everybody. And I hope you're taking notes, you know. Yeah, no, and I want to ask you something that, you know, is important to me because, you know, obviously we've been in Sacramento and, you know, a lot of different politics out here and stuff, you know, in the scene and whatnot, a lot of competitiveness.
Yeah.
What drove you to decide to leave Sacramento and pursue your entertainment rather than staying here and trying to pursue your entertainment?
So for me specifically, like I'm really, and I've been trying to like lighten up a little bit, but I was so focused on pop music. And for me specifically in Sacramento with pop music, there really isn't a scene for pop music. Even in terms of like collaborating with other artists, there's not really like a network for that or like enough people in Sacramento who are into pop music. Cause like I'm inspired by like Bruno Mars and like Charlie Puth or like Justin Timberlake. Like I love all music, but like I love the entertaining factor of pop music and like the visual element. And so that's just me being myself. But like I've realized that not a lot of artists here, especially like musicians, they're not into that. And I felt like I kind of hit a ceiling in Sacramento because for a while, like I want to put Sacramento on. Like I want to work with everyone to like put Sacramento on the map globally, to be like this kind of music and these kind of people are coming out of Sacramento. But I was doing that, you know, like 5, 6, 8 years. And even working at Maya Well was great, but I felt like I was hitting a ceiling and like that was it. And I love Sacramento so much. And like, I wanted to really make that work, but I'm like, sometimes you need to do more and explore more avenues. And it's not like that for everybody. But for me personally with pop music, I felt like I was getting some roadblocks, to be honest. And for me, like in the music scene in Sacramento, like there is like some resistance or some competition. And I don't really understand why that is, because I have always tried to be like a connector, even if it's for other people. But I'm like, hey, let's do something together. Or like, so our mutual friend told me about you. Like, let's jam. Let's try and do something. And oftentimes I was met with like hesitation or just like they're not into it. I'm like, what is? Then I try and then I internalize it. I'm like, what am I doing wrong? Like, and I realize maybe I can come on too strong, because I can come off as very confident and very put together and very ready. And maybe that intimidates some artists. But I'm like, that's not what I'm trying to do. But like, I'm just so enthusiastic about stuff that if you get me on board, I'm going to come with like a million ideas, and I'm going to come fully polished and ready to go. Cause like, that's the way I am. But like, I would like internalize that. Like, am I rubbing people the wrong way, or are people just not ready in their own, they're working through things with themselves. But I was kind of running into that too. Especially, I feel like there's more of like a hip hop and rap scene out here, and then like an indie rock, like indie acoustic music scene out here. And like, I don't really identify with either of those as an artist. So I feel like those kind of genres do well in Sacramento, but for pop music, I wasn't feeling like I was getting anywhere. And I've also just had ambitions to just go and do more. I didn't want to be just a NorCal kid my entire life. I needed to experience like more of the world. And I really yearned for that. So that's also what encouraged me to like quit Maya Well, because I felt like I built things up so much at Maya Well, and it was great. And Maya Well was so good to me. And they really like let me be that artist. Like, I was a waiter, so I was the singing waiter, but I was still a waiter at the core. Like, we hired you to wait tables.
You weren't just a singing waiter, but you're a bilingual singing waiter, right?
Yes, totally. Yeah. So I'm bilingual in English and Spanish, although maybe a surprise to some, I'm not, as far as I know of, any type of Latino. I'm Italian American. My dad's side is from Sicily, but that's
Latin, though, right?
I don't know quite.
But you speak Spanish very well.
Yeah,
I think one of
fluent.
the first times my brother and I seen you, you were hosting an event in Sacramento at Cesar Chavez Park.
Yeah,
it was on
Fiesta en la Calle.
Yeah. Vince is up there. He's speaking Spanish. I'm like, man, I was like, oh, maybe he's part Mexican or so Latino background or something. And then we got to meet you, and I'm like, man, Vince is good.
Yeah, no, very impressed. Yeah. So where did that come from?
Oh man. Okay. So I have that story because I get asked that a lot. So I'm happy to tell that story. I do want to say I identify culturally as Mexican, and I mean that halfway as a joke, but also halfway seriously.
Yeah.
So growing up in my small town in Jackson, there's not a lot of diversity. So in high school, there was about like 12 or 14 Mexican kids who are like actually from Mexico, who came here in the last 1 to 3 or 4 years, who don't speak a lot of Spanish. And I had never been exposed to another culture before. Like, there was maybe 2 black kids or 1 Asian kid, but like, I never got like any different experience culturally with them at school, because it was such a predominantly like white, rural, like agricultural place. So I got placed one year. My study hall was with the Spanish teacher, and so that school district, they were just like, oh, Mexican kids, we will put them all together in the study hall with the Spanish teacher. Like, that will help them. So I was in the study hall class with all the Mexicans, and I don't mean anything derogatory by that, by the way, but I was exposed to, like, for the first time in my life, a different culture, and I was fascinated with like the music, with the language, with the way they just do life, and the way their community interacts. And I kind of feel like, man, I didn't really grow up with like a defined culture in my life. Like, I know I'm Italian and I'm Irish, and I really identify with the Italian culture, but like, I didn't grow up with that culture. And researching that later on, I realized like my grandpa, that side was so into assimilation that when they came over here and got established from Italy, they're like, yo, we're American, bro. Like, we're changing our name. We're not speaking Italian. Like, so that's where that comes from, where I have that void of culture, and that really bums me out. But I meet these Mexican kids, and like, I've just become so fascinated. And they were like, that was the first time I heard reggaeton, was through them.
Right.
Nice.
But like, there's maybe 3 or 4 girls in that group, and the rest were dudes. But I became like infatuated with this particular Mexican girl, and we started dating and she's my girlfriend for a while. And she never spoke English to me. She's like, oh, I know English, but I'm just too embarrassed to speak it to you. So I like totally fell for this girl. I'm like, I've never met a person like this before in my life. So she would only speak Spanish to me. And
awesome.
And she'd write me notes in Spanish. I'd take them home and like translate them and stuff. And it was just like,
cool.
oh, it was just like infatuation, I think is the correct word. But like, I just started learning Spanish to be able to communicate with her. And then I would talk to the homies, the dudes.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, I want to learn Spanish. And then these guys want to learn English because they're like, we want an American girlfriend. I'm like, all right, we're forming an alliance. Like handshake. I will teach you English. I will get you that American girlfriend. You will teach me Spanish. Like, let's hang out.
Yeah.
So I'd hang out with the homies, like trying to learn Spanish. And they just like totally, and you know also what it was, to be quite honest, because these kids didn't grow up in Amador County and have this preconceived notion of the whole lottery thing.
Yeah.
I realized like for the first time ever, these were kids treating me like pure equals.
Like they accepted you for who you were.
Yes, dude.
Who you
and
were.
like that's gonna like
that's
make me emotional right now. But that was the first time I felt that. Like I felt like they were treating me like they're like making fun of me and like including me, but I felt like they were like just being real kids with me versus like other kids I've grown up with. I feel like there's always been this like, oh, well, Vince comes from that family, like lottery stuff. But these kids from Mexico didn't know any of that stuff. They didn't even care. And so they just like included me, and I was just part of the crew and just embraced me. And it was a feeling I'd never had before, to be honest.
Wow.
And they would just bring me over to their house, or I'd give them rides home from school. And I just like got so enveloped in the Mexican culture. And like honestly, within a year, I learned a lot of Spanish. And I realized now like that's the dominant side of my brain. I'm really good with languages. You can teach me stuff. Like I can pick up on Tagalog words or like Bahasa, like I can retain stuff. My brain like is really dominant in that way.
Have you had dreams in Spanish?
Yeah. Especially in high school. And like if there'll be times, and even in college and working in the restaurant at my abuel, where like I'm thinking and speaking in Spanish more than I am in English. But I would have dreams in Spanish.
Do you remember the first one? Like the very first time you were like, you woke up and you're like, holy shit, that was in Spanish.
I remember dreaming in high school, dreaming in Spanish. And then one of my homies, you know, a white dude, called me in the middle of the night at like midnight. I don't even know, talk about some relationship drama or something, but I get woken up to like my phone ringing, and I'm in high school, and I answer my phone, but I'm answering it in Spanish. And he's like, dude, Vince. I'm like, bueno. I'm like, ¿qué quieres? Like, dude, like, speak to me in English. And I'm like, Tanner? Like, what? Dude. Like that really, I was like having a train of thought in my dream in Spanish, and my phone rang, and I I answered it in Spanish. And my homie Tanner like doesn't speak Spanish. He's like, dude, what? It's me. Like, don't talk to me in Spanish. I don't know Spanish, dude. So like that has happened. And there's sometimes if I'm hanging out all day or all weekend with my friends, a lot of times we're just only speaking Spanish.
That's cool.
And I feel so comfortable. Like I really do feel like just comfortable. I feel like it feels so natural to me, especially in the Mexican culture. So that's kind of where it all started for me, learning Spanish.
That's fascinating.
It is.
And do you find that because you've put that effort into learning Spanish, that the people from the Mexican culture or whatever, they treat you differently, right? They have a lot more appreciation or respect, or is it admiration? Like,
they're just more excited. And I've learned that like Latino cultures in general, including Mexican culture, like they latch on to stuff, like whether it's people or music or like festivals, but like they will embrace something and that becomes a huge part, and like they love it. And like they like respect you, and not, I shouldn't say respect it, they just like love what you're doing, and they want to embrace that so much and make them feel like you're part of what we have going on.
It's that passion.
Because they're also proud to be Latino and proud to be Mexican. And so like I think that they kind of like swoop me up into that feeling of like pride and honor. Like, well, and then it's like this guy like learns Spanish. Like it makes us feel proud that he wants to do that. But like for all the events that I've hosted, the ones like Fiesta en la Calle, like the Latino centric events, there's so much more pride that I feel like working with those crowds and being with those people. Like it's un orgullo. Like people just feel so proud of their music, of their food, of their traditions. And I think that like they have just swept me up into that to include me in that. I think that's where it comes from. And I don't think that American culture is quite that way. I feel like there's in American culture, there's more like maybe emphasis on like independence. Cause like when you're 18, you leave and you like go do your life and you start your family and you do your independent life. But like in Latino cultures, that communal thing, it lasts a lifetime. Like especially in LA, you go to these neighborhoods, there's entire community, even though it's LA and it's this huge monstrosity of a city, there's still these barrios or that's their community, man. And they know everybody on the block. And
Generations, right?
Yeah, but they got each other's backs. They sell each other tamales, or they help each other clean their cars. Like the community aspect in Latino culture is huge. And so I think that that's what I feel from them. And like they've included me in that. And it makes me feel, I'm so grateful for that, you know?
That's beautiful, man. You know, and my brother and I could relate to you in a lot of ways because we're part Mexican. So, but we didn't grow up, like we weren't raised Mexican, you know what I'm saying? So we kind of were always sort of on the outside looking in and like admiring like all the beautiful aspects of the Mexican culture, whether it be, you know, the dancing, you know, the music, the food, colors, you know what I mean? Everything, the festivities. We loved it, you know. I mean, even, you know, back in the day, we were fascinated with like the lowrider cholo stuff, you know. I mean, it was fascinating. It was different. We weren't raised like that, but we were always drawn to it.
But all our family on the Mexican side, a lot of them, they're all from East LA.
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of family from LA and you know, family from Mexico too. In fact, I mean, you probably don't know this, but, and I don't really share this with a whole lot of people, but we're actually distant relatives of the last Mexican governor of California.
Pio Pico.
Pio Pico. Yeah. So if you, I mean, he's got a Wikipedia and everything.
Interesting.
Yeah. When California used to be Mexico, he was the governor and stuff. So, you know, it just goes way back, but that's fascinating stuff, man, because, you know, we grew up with a Korean mother. And so she pretty much raised us and
the values and cultures.
And that's fascinating too, you know, especially being like, we don't really look Korean.
Don't speak
it. It's an interesting dynamic to not be really accepted by Korean people, but when they would find out we're Korean, and you know, and then they treat us a little bit differently. Or, you know, learning the language and trying to just feeling that like that acceptance. You know what I mean? And that pride and just noticing like the way people would treat me differently if I spoke Spanish to them or if I spoke Korean or something. I love that, man. So we could really relate.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the cultures, the majority of like cultures outside of the U.S., at the end of the day, have that pride. And so maybe they're apprehensive about who you are and trying to identify you or identify with you. But then they have that Korean pride. They loop you into that stuff. I think that's part of like what a lot of like cultures in other parts of the world do. And so it's a beautiful thing to be part of that. But it's also like, you know, people get raised in a certain way where like, maybe you only have so much Korean culture, but like you might feel like it's not enough Korean culture to feel like you belong. But like we can't be hard on ourselves or judge each other by the way we grew up because that's out of our control. You know, for whatever reason. So it's like I think that we as a collective, not just the three of us, but like, you know, everybody needs to like just be a little bit more mindful of that. Because some people grew up, I know I'm Korean, but I never had that full experience. And so as an adult, now I'm trying to, that's what I did with my Italian roots. It wasn't until an ethnic studies class in college that like I discovered all my roots. And I'm still fiercely proud of being like having a Sicilian lineage. And I have like a whole book of I talked to I'm going to see her tomorrow. Actually, she's 99 years old.
That's awesome.
She grew up with my great grandfather and they're the ones that came from Sicily and they settled here in Sacramento. But like, for whatever reason, the assimilation happened and like, they just didn't like continue that on, but like, that's not my fault. But like, we should all be allowed to just connect and rediscover like where our lineage comes from and not be like, not judge or criticize other people for trying to explore that, because some people are trying to know more about their identity or trying to establish an identity. And that gets back to the thing of like, what's your purpose in life? And sometimes discovering your lineage and your culture can help you define your purpose in life.
Boom. Yeah, I love that.
And that's something that we should like be more welcoming and inclusive and accepting of with each other in life, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because I've gone through that same struggle too, you know, trying to figure out like who I am as a person, what's my purpose, all that kind of stuff. And I still kind of go through those exercises or, you know, just those thoughts and stuff. And I do think it is important to connect to your lineage, you know, no matter if you're, you know, mixed with a few different things, you know, pick something about your background, your ethnicity and stuff and dive into it a little bit, learn about the history of it, learn about the struggles of their people. Something that I think is really important is that, you know, I think, you know, as people and stuff, you know, we are all descendants of other people, right? And there's a whole lineage that preceded us and they've all kind of gone through the trials and tribulations of life as well. And I feel like there's something to that. Like, you know, a lot of people believe that trauma and different things are passed down through our DNA, you know, and that our tissues have issues. I don't know if you've heard that expression.
There's a lot of fact in that, I believe. For good and for bad, because that's where like alcoholism can come from. That's also where like musicianship can come from.
For sure.
You know, because if I could speak into what you're saying for a moment, like So my great-great-grandfather, once I learned about him, I am so proud of him, and I want to make him proud. Like my dad actually met him when my dad was like 9, 10 years old before he died, but he like was the one who was in Sicily, the only one in his family who's like, I'm going to the New World, I'm going to the US, I'm going to like be the catalyst to get my family lineage to that next chapter of like greatness.
So he's the one that came
he's
over
the one.
first.
His name was Saverio. Changed his name to Sam when he came over here. And now Sam is a family name. My grandpa's name is Sam. My brother's name is Sam. But like learning about what he did, he was a musician. He's a multi-instrumentalist. He came over here, played with the John Philip Sousa band, which is like a very popular band at the turn of the 20th century back then. But like learning about him, like at least one person in every generation is a musician in my family.
Wow,
like, so there's
awesome.
like the genetics, there is a lot of like at work with that.
Yeah.
But also learning so much about him, he came all the way from Piana degli Greci, Sicily. It's now called Piana degli Albanesi. Eventually settled in Sacramento. My dad finally showed me his like grave site right there on Riverside Boulevard here in
Oh,
Sacramento.
damn. Okay.
Wow.
So he's out. Okay.
And so like to go, I would just go visit where he is and his wife and his like his kids, and just to like be like, dude, you came across the whole world, and like
yeah.
you're the reason I'm here.
Yeah.
And that really motivates, inspires me too. Like I want to be that for my generation. I want to be the catalyst to get my family into that next phase of like taking our family to another level of like greatness, of excellence, of just opportunity like he did. So like getting in touch with your roots can lead you to those paths to be like, oh wow, we're musicians because like my great grandfather was that and my great uncle was this, but then it's also like that can give you motivation and that can help you tap into your purpose.
Yeah.
Because I see what my great grandfather Noni, which is like our dialect for like grandfather, but like what Noni did for himself and for his family, like that inspires me too. I want to be that for my generation.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And you know what? I just want to kind of touch on that, a little caveat to what you're saying, which is super important. You know, sometimes we have to slow down in life and think about, you know, some of the immediate family and people around us, right?
Yeah.
Like I remember, you know, when I was young as a teenager or whatever, I mean, my brother and I, we're running around doing our thing, you know, having fun, just being kids. And I would often neglect what my mom was going through. I didn't really think about, you know, all the struggles and the things that she had to deal with until I got a little bit older. So I think it's important, you know, also like slowing down and just reflecting on that. Like, you know, who are these people that are also in your life that have kind of been there in the background while you're trying to figure out your own shit, you know what I mean? Try to figure your own purpose. You still got these other people in the background that are worrying about you, thinking about you, wanting the best for you and all that kind of stuff. They're also going through shit too. So, you know, it's so important to slow down and to, you know, make sure that you stay tapped in, you know what I mean? And maintain that human connection, you know what I'm saying? That, you know, that bond that you have, you know, with these people that care about you, because, you know, I mean, life is short.
And we wouldn't be here without them.
We wouldn't be here without them, you know, and tomorrow's not guaranteed. You just never know. So, you know, I heard you say that you believe in God and stuff like that. I don't know. Are you religious or just agnostic?
No, I'm religious. I'm Roman Catholic.
Nice.
But like, you know, I'm living in the 21st century. Let's put it that way. So like,
exactly.
I'm Catholic, but I'm also very present to
everything
to the 21st century. You know, so I feel like the Bible, you know, I'm not trying to get controversial, but like, some things were written way back thousands of years ago, and some of those things can't apply with where humans are at right now.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to try and get people
without
upset,
going,
but
too deep into
But there's certain things that we know for sure. You know, like we know like that, you know, tomorrow the sun's going to rise. You know what I mean? We know that we're living on a rock that's hurtling through space, like Joe Rogan likes to say.
Spinning
a
around.
lot of mysterious things, and a lot of things that really are, you know, just outside of our understanding and stuff. But you know, some of the more universal truths that I think, you know, have always stood the test of time, that are so important, is like love. You know what I mean? And you know, being there for your family and your friends too. And one thing that I noticed about you too is, you know, over the years, just how much you stay tapped into your friends and your network, and how you care about people, you know, and
we can relate to that quite a bit too. So
that's super,
and that's what I'm learning, especially like if you try to get into a relationship and like try and have a healthy relationship with someone, is that we all come from this background and have these traumas, and we got to learn to like not take things personally. And that can also include our family, like our parents and our siblings, but also like your partner, like you're trying to have that romantic, like lifelong relationship with someone. They're going to have stuff that comes up, but it's like to try and really understand the root, like where is this coming from them? that, yeah, they're directing it at me, but is it really about me?
Yeah.
Or is it really about something they have going on from their childhood or their adolescence? You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm learning a lot about too. And then that makes me reflect on myself in the same way. Like, why is it that when my brother or my roommate or just someone says something, like I have to get defensive or I have to jump in and like correct them? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and like I had friends or like partners who've called me out on that, like in like a friendly way, but I'm like, you know what? You're right. Like, why do I jump into that? And like, I have to go back and like reflect myself. Like, it's not personal. It's not Antonio setting me off. It's just like, I heard he said something that reminded me of something that got said a lot when I was 14. And like my mind, like trauma, like how do we deflect this? How do we feel good? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I just want to kind of double back real quick on what you said about like love and recognizing like your family that was there for you. And that's great. And I'm totally with that. I mean, but I feel like everyone, like for me, I feel like the exact opposite growing up. I feel like I was always there and always so hyper present of what my parents were going through and hyper present of what my siblings were going through. But I did that so much, I did not provide that love and support for myself.
Right.
And I'm just now realizing that now as an adult. But the bottom, like at the end of the day, you said like love. It's love for everybody, but including yourself.
Oh, for sure.
Absolutely.
And so, like, but I guess the point I'm trying to make is, like, you felt that way that you weren't doing enough for your parents or recognizing where they're from. That's excellent because that's your experience. For me, like, I felt like that's all I did.
Yeah.
Almost to a fault to myself.
Right.
Because every time I stepped out the door, like, what are my parents going to think? Like, how's my mom going to deal with this? How's it going to reflect on my family? And so I was like, but I was so tuned into them that I wasn't even tuned into myself at that age where you were tuned into yourself. So at the end of the day, we have to give ourselves love and then give our circle love as well. So that's what it comes down to is self-love and love for others, and that empathy for yourself and the empathy for others.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. It reminds me of this quote I wrote down the other day on my phone. It was something about like, we have to make sure that our own cup is full.
Yes.
You know, before that, you know, we can tend to someone else's or something like that.
My mom told me once, like, you can't help others if you can't help yourself first.
Yeah.
And that is where I started to kind of change my way of thinking in college, where because I'm just so here for everybody to the ends of the earth until time is done. But I'm like, if I'm not good, I can't be that friend to everyone else. So I need to make sure that like I take care of myself first so that I can take care of everyone. Because that is what I really feel compelled to do and feel so fulfilled by.
Yeah, no, it's interesting you say that. You know, because I often think about too, like, you know, just being an artist in Sacramento and struggling, you know, with all the challenges that come with that and stuff. I mean, you know, a lot of times you could be out there, you know, showing love and support to all these different other artists in the scene, but they often don't reciprocate.
Yeah, man.
You know what I mean? You don't get that back, you know, and it's very unfulfilling and discouraging at times and stuff. And I feel like that's sometimes why people feel, you know, motivated to get out of Sacramento.
Yeah.
And to, you know, just
Go
get out
beyond.
of their comfort zone and go beyond.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and
there's a lot of limitations in Sacramento for sure.
Oh, for sure. I mean, just to bring up a couple examples, because I don't want to be the only one that's like saying that, you know, I mean, you know, I think, you know, guys like Mozzie, he said the same thing. He said, I think it was on like the Breakfast Club or something like that. He was saying that, you know, Sacramento it's too political. And you know, the only way that he was able to grow was he had to get out of Sacramento.
Took off to LA.
You know, we all saw him like leave to LA and stuff. And then, you know, his career kind of just went up.
Yeah.
You know, so, I mean, there's a lot to be said. And, you know, it just kind of seems to be sort of a common theme of our conversation here is just, you know, overcoming your traumas, self-love,
stepping outside your comfort zone,
so that you could grow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, I mean, and we see you doing that. That's, you know, one of the reasons why we wanted to have you on this podcast, because, you know, even though you're still on your journey and stuff, that's what it's really all about. It's not about the destination. It's really about the journey.
Yes, it is.
You know?
Yeah. And we've met a lot of people that have, quote unquote, going to LA to make it or do whatever they're trying to do in terms of pursuing their passions. But that's different. But like Vince, right? He went down in January in 2020, pandemic hit, and several years later, boom, Vince is still there. He's thriving. He's doing his thing down there.
You could have came back. You could have folded.
Yeah, he could have said, I'm moving back. I'm moving back.
My family wanted me to immediately.
Yeah. But I mean, this is who you are, and this is what continues to make you who you are today.
Yes.
You're like, I came this far. I'm not going to stop.
And I think that's just what we have to think about is we can't give up.
No, you can't.
Even if you're listening to this and you're not trying to pursue music and entertainment, not
no matter
trying to
what
be
it
in
is.
LA, if you want to own multiple homes or like open your own business, like there's always going to be setbacks, but it's redirections. But you still have the forward momentum. And so for me, it's like I'm still working on this to giving myself deadlines. Well, this has to happen by 2020. If not, like, you're a failure. You know what I'm saying? Because like I'm trying to launch my own podcast too. And at the beginning of this year, like by May, we're launching it in May. Yeah. But like there's so much going on with life. It's like, why am I putting that pressure on myself that it could, like, you need drive and you need motivation, but like you shouldn't be so hard on yourself that like you discourage yourself and then like get yourself into the negative mindset of like,
you've done that before too, man.
We all do that, bro. We all do that, Marco. So it's like, but we have to show ourselves grace and compassion. Cause like, I'm still chipping away at that podcast. I'm still making music, but like life is going to just throw you different things, whether you realize what the lesson is or not, that we have to deal with. And for me, during the pandemic, I realized, oh, this is my time to work on myself personally. I've been so on my game with music and entertainment. Like I look back like Instagram stories where it'd be like what you were doing 3 years ago. I'm like, oh my God, I was doing the absolute most. And like now in the pandemic, I can't even do one of those things, but it's like, no, this is my time. This is the universe telling me pandemic's wild, but this is the time that is given to you to start working on yourself. Because I'd never worked on myself as an adult until these past couple of years of the pandemic. And because of that, I am growing and I'm able to channel that back into my art and back into my entertainment. And I'm helping myself out. And I'm realizing that's also another way that I can help other people out too, through my music, through my art, and just through living my authentic life.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Well said.
Yeah. How we doing on time? We good? What time?
I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah. If I could just jump back into the Mozzie thing.
Totally. Yeah.
But like I have heard from multiple people in Sacramento where like they felt like you have to leave Sacramento. Like Sacramento as a collective doesn't always show love to their own people when they're trying to do something.
Yeah.
Whether you are doing fashion or you're a dancer or you're a rapper or you're music producers, like for some weird reason in Sacramento specifically, people have to go out and make the rounds and get big and feel loved somewhere else.
Right. Before the city says we're going to get behind you.
Yeah, and then to come back. But I've heard that not just from you guys, from a bunch of other different types of artists too. Yeah. So it's been really interesting. I feel like one of the only artistic communities that I've seen in Sacramento that like has each other's back is like the dance scene. Cause like I would go to these like b-boy breakdancing competitions just to watch. Cause that fascinates me.
Badass, yeah.
I love that stuff. I love to dance, but I'm like nowhere near that level. But I will go to those battles and people are bringing the heat and they're in each other's face. But like when the battle is said and done, there is so much love in that room or wherever they're doing that. But I feel like the dance community, they have it, man. They're supporting each other. They're putting each other on. Someone makes it onto that TV show. Someone makes it on tour with, you know, the Jabberwockies doing the stuff for Daddy Yankee or whatever, like, or Bruno Mars. Like everyone's all about it and they support each other. So like that, I think that is a model example of how an artistic community in Sacramento has done, because there's actually been some really big dancers who have come out of Sacramento. There's I'm fired up now. Jerry and Monique Slaughter, they're brother and sisters. They're probably like in their early 40s, late 30s. Jerry got his start choreographing Christina Aguilera's Dirty music video way back in the day. That was the beginning for him. I randomly found out one day that like he and his sister went to Sacramento High School. And so his sister is one of Christina Aguilera's main dancers for 20 years. And that guy, Jerry, has become like her main like visual director for all her stuff.
That's cool.
There's a guy, TJ Lewis.
Yeah.
He's TJ Lewis. You know him, right?
We know
He's a Jabberwocky, ain't he?
Yes.
Yeah, we follow him. Yeah.
I didn't know who I went to one of the B-boy things. I just love being there. I watched him.
He is a beast.
It was maybe like 2016 or 2017.
Yeah.
Killed it all night long. At like the most heated like final battle, homeboy put on roller skates and just came out the gate. And I'm like, yo, this dude, I took a picture with him. I'm like, TJ Lewis, I want a picture with this guy's gonna do stuff. Fast forward, he's with the Jabberwockies now.
Yeah.
He's done a lot of stuff with Bruno Mars, like on the American Music Awards, on a couple music videos, but like that's a Sacramento artist, man.
Yeah, doing big things. Shout out to TJ Lewis, man.
Yes,
doing
man.
big things. You know, I saw that. You know, he's so good. He's like one of those guys that I wish I could dance like that.
Yes.
Like, damn.
Yes.
Can I get some private lessons, man?
Totally. But also that's so motivating for me to see that like it's still possible to do. But like I think that the dance community in Sacramento is super supportive. Like we can all do more. And I really try to be the example, especially in like the live music with like, you know, musicians, like getting a band and doing that. I try and be that example and be that person I would hope to get from everyone else, because we don't have to have competition. We don't have to be as my friend Kia said the other day, like gatekeepers, that people be at gatekeeping on each other, where it's like, well, I got this connect and this is working for me. And even though I see each other in the streets and we see each other at these events, I'm still going to, like, you know, not share or not help each other put on. Like, but why?
Yeah.
Like, why gatekeep, man?
Yes. Why? Okay. So I'm going to ask you, like, why do you think that is? Why do you think the dance community is so supportive of each other in Sacramento, but all the other communities, like, you know, whether it's DJing or whatever it is, they're so unsupportive? What's going on? Like, what's the difference?
And this is my personal, opinion of this so far, but I think that ego has a lot to do with it.
Yes.
And when you look at the typical dancer, male or female, like, they don't have an ego. They're so, like, free flowing and flamboyant and just put themselves out there, and they're not concerned with an ego or how people might see them, like, oh, that guy is a little too feminine, or that chick's a little too whatever, this is too flashy, or that's too Bay Area, that's too East Coast. Like, I don't see that in the dance community. Like, people just being themselves, and I don't see a lot of ego, because people see doing crazy stuff on the dance floor. But like with music, I feel like some people have this ego, and maybe it comes from this personalization of, like, my lyrics, this is my life, like, and I need to defend that, and I need to, like, you know, make sure that people don't, like, mess with me or try and come for me with me being vulnerable. But, like, I think that there's some ego involved that comes from, especially if you're writing songs, that it can be very personal, and people can be, like, really scared or worried about how people will react to the lyrics that come from your heart and your mind. And so I think the ego is a lot of it.
Yeah.
And, like, we want to be perceived a certain way, or worried we will be perceived a way we don't want to be perceived. And we need to let go of that ego with ourselves. And then that will, I think, will open up more doors to collaborate and want to support and want to be friends with people too.
100%, man. That's one of the reasons why we have you here, man. I mean, what you're saying right now is so spot on, and it's so important. You know, we do have to, like, you know, push that ego to the side and humble ourselves, be vulnerable, and push ourselves to connect with other human beings. You know, we got a network and stuff. It's so important in the entertainment industry. And I think that, you know, Sacramento, unfortunately, it lacks a lot of that. You know what I mean? And people are so worried about being judged, you know, or what people are going to think about them. I often think of, you know, like what it's like for, like, a new comic to go on stage, you know what I mean? And to try out some jokes, or maybe it's their first time doing some stand up, and, you know, they bomb, you know, and then it could be so traumatic that they'll never come back and do it again, you know? And then you got those other people that are like, you know what, I fucked up, but I'm going to go back next week. I'm going to keep trying and get better at it and stuff. And it's that vulnerability, you know, building up that ability, that, like, strength, that courage to get up there and you know, and possibly bomb. You know?
And I don't want to, I want to just clarify, I don't want to generalize to say that, like, collectively Sacramento is because I've met some incredibly dynamic, supportive people, and I've been seeing them this weekend while I've been here in town. And it's like, oh yeah, this is what it is. This is the community. So I'm not trying to say that all of Sacramento is like that, but there are these pockets that we run into as artists.
And let me just kind of add to that too.
I'm gonna add one thing.
I don't want to ever make a blanket statement about any city, because it's really watching, it's not about the city. It's not about Sacramento. Easy to, you know, use it as a scapegoat, but it's just about the people. You know? And there's always going to be some good people and some bad people, for sure, man. I agree with you. You know, there's, like, David Garibaldi is a guy that comes to mind. You know, he's super successful, but he's also very giving, very supportive, very humble, and a great example for anyone in Sacramento.
Tremendous.
Who wants to do big things. You know what I mean? And, you know, someone we could look to in terms of how we can conduct ourselves.
I totally agree.
So I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, Antonio had something to say.
Oh, no. I just feel like in the entertainment scene in general, I guess if you want to say Sacramento, since we've spent so much time here, that rather than people wanting to collab in a sense, they kind of view maybe yourself or maybe others that are very talented as competitive threats, rather than an artist that they could say, you know, maybe I could learn something from that person, or maybe, you know, we should collab, or
it's a narrow-mindedness, you know, and it doesn't serve you well. You know, you can't have a narrow mind like that. You've got to be understanding, you know what I mean? And open your mind and understand that, you know, people are going through different things at different times of their life. And I remember this chiropractor one time, he told me this quote that really stuck with me. He was saying, you know, you have to be content with where people are at in their lives.
Yes,
you know, just be content with where they're at. You know what I'm saying? And you'll be so much more happier. And, you know, ever since he told me that, I was like, you know what, he's right. It's like, it gave me so much more peace of mind. Just someone's having a bad day, they react to me a certain way. I don't need to feed into that. In fact, you know what? I'll just say this real quick. I remember Salma Hayek, you know, she's in an interview and stuff, and she was talking about how, now if somebody was talking shit to you, but they were talking shit to you in a different language that you didn't understand, would it affect you?
No, because I don't know what they're saying. Exactly. I would maybe just read their body language. That's about as best as I could do.
Yeah. So I thought what she said was so powerful, because it's like, it's the way we perceive things.
Totally.
It's taking it personal, or, you know, being offended or whatever. It's the way that we react to it. And
yes.
I have to say, you know, I mean, that is so important. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's really up to us, you know, and we have the power to, you know what I'm saying, whether to you know, react, overreact. You know, you don't want to overreact, because you could never take back an overreaction.
Totally. And you're absolutely right that everyone's going through something. And I learned that, especially working at the restaurant, where some people just be like really shitty to me. But I have to be like, I wonder what happened to this guy's day, or like what happened to this guy's life.
Yeah, exactly.
And I would just like, in a weird way, I started like thinking that way, like just not taking stuff personally. He could have had a huge fight with his girlfriend, or had a shitty day at work. Like, I can't make this about me. He's directing some heat at me, but it's like,
but it's not you.
Yeah, but it's not me. I'm like, damn, this guy has some stuff going on. So like,
that's a tough job too. So I mean, your experience being a server,
and especially being a host on stage, people do all kinds of crazy stuff, especially when there's alcohol involved. Like, I experienced that last night, where I'm just like, you have to just be mindful of that, not like take it personally. Yeah. And I just want to like say what you speak on what you said earlier, Marcos, about vulnerability. Like, what I'm learning about that is like, that's a strength. And for some reason, sometimes I feel like maybe we've been taught to think that being vulnerable is bad or negative or weak, especially as men. But I'm realizing now, like, that's a strength, is to be vulnerable with ourselves, with our families, with our partners. Like, that's a strength, man. And that's what I'm learning, because even speaking about the lottery stuff, or like, I just could not bring myself to share that with anybody. But now that I've been like opening up about it, I see like the strength in it, and how much better I feel being candid with people that you can like. And then when we're in, and as a result of that, we related to that. You shared something with me about your guys' life growing up, and it's like, I wouldn't have been able to know that. Yeah. And like, this is one more thing that connects us even stronger. Because I got vulnerable and shared that with you guys. So
100%.
It's like my therapist calls a corrective experience. You know, like you did something and you shared, and like good things came of that.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely, man.
So like, I encourage the vulnerability.
Oh, for sure. And it's so important for men too. You know, I just have to say, because a lot of men, you know, we harbor a lot of feelings inside. We internalize. We're so worried about, you know, rejection, or being judged or perceived as weak.
Or being soft.
Yeah. Soft. You know what I'm saying? And so it's so important to break that way of thinking, and just to, you know, realize that being vulnerable and talking about what you're going through is only therapeutic. And not only that, but you can often help someone else who might be going through it too.
Because it dawned on me one day, I'm like, no matter what your gender is, we're still human, and we've still been given all the same emotions. Yeah. You know, just because we're men doesn't mean we're like unable to feel sadness, or like being upset, or being like frustrated. Like, we're humans. Like, that's part of the stuff we get as humans. So to say like that's not what men do, it's like, no, that's what human beings do. Yeah. Regardless of what your gender is or how you identify, we still have the same emotions that pop up in our brain and in our heart. So like, it's unfair to say that only certain genders can experience those emotions, and you shouldn't because you're a man. Like that, no. Yeah. We're all gonna be sad. We're all gonna be happy. We're all gonna be like, have our hell yeah days, and we're all gonna have like our shitty days. Like, it's a human thing. Yeah. You know?
Right. You got to experience the lows to appreciate the highs.
Yes.
Right? You know what I mean?
And that's life.
Yeah. Life's a roller coaster, you know? I mean, you know, no matter how we spin it.
I just wanted to touch back a little bit about what's going on with Vince in LA right now. Bring us up to speed as far as you've been down there for several years. You've been through a lot. In fact, you've been on some TV shows.
Tell us about that. Yeah. Some exciting shit.
What was the one? It wasn't Wheel of Fortune. It was
The Price is Right.
The Price is Right. You're on The Price is Right. You've done a lot since you've been down there. So we just want to not
highlight some.
Yeah, we want to highlight it, but I'm sure the rest of the world wants to know too. Like, what has Vince been doing down there all these years? What's going on?
And what do you got brewing?
Yeah, what's the projects?
I've been doing literally anything I can. Yeah. So when I first moved down there before the pandemic arrived, I had friends who were like just passing me stuff. Here's this, go do this. I know this person who can do this. Just go do that. And I'm like, yep. I'll do it all. So like, I had friends who knew people who produced on The Price is Right. Like, respond to this email. They'll probably get you on. respond to this email. We can probably get you on The Masked Singer to be like front row in the crowd. And I'm like, all right, let's go. Let's go. I met with like my old coworker's brother who introduced me to a casting director. And I'm like, what's up? Okay, let's go. So like, I'm just like was doing everything and anything that was like being handed to me or like any opportunity. And so that's how The Price is Right came about. I actually was on it twice, but the first time I didn't get called down. And the second time was like peak pandemic where like they couldn't have anyone travel. So I got on the show. I'm like, you're one of 12 contestants.
That's
like,
awesome.
You have a 90% chance of like coming on down. But that was just through a connection. I shouldn't say a connection, but just someone who's like, here's an opportunity, take it. And so like, if you don't take an opportunity, you're not going to like potentially see the success that can be given to you for that.
Exactly.
I was on a game show, a new game show called People Puzzler on the Game Show Network. And that was the same thing. My old coworker's brother introduced me to a casting director and she's like, here's this show. And I'm like, I apply. It's hosted by Leah Remini. It was so, I worked my ass off to do crossword puzzles.
Yeah.
I like practice. Sounds not hard. And I'm so comfortable on camera, like being under the gun. But that game show, man, I bombed. I did like terribly. It's like, when I knew I couldn't recover, I'm like, I'm just gonna make this funny. Like I'm just gonna make this as like memorable for me as possible and like get as many jokes in with Leah Remini as I can. So like, I did that random game show. I was in the crowd for The Masked Singer, but they used my face for like a reaction so much. They put me in multiple episodes.
Yeah.
And then they even put me in the Masked Dancer. And so people would like hit me up like, yo, I just saw you on The Masked Singer. Like I just was like, I was just serving face with like, just reacting to like whatever the judges were doing. And like the producers, I guess, love that stuff. So did that stuff. But as things are kind of opening up, you know, I tell myself 2020 was survival mode. 2021 was recovery mode. 2022, I'm finally able to go out and do what I came down here to do. Yeah. So I started hosting a weekly karaoke night.
Nice.
Right.
One of my cousins opened a bar with some business partners that is like 12 minutes from my house.
Nice.
And so I went and visited, saw this opportunity for this like room they want to do entertainment in. So I came to them. I'm like, yo, I can host anything for you guys in here. Like, let me like, what do you guys want to do? Like, I will do that. And so we collabed and they gave me that opportunity. So I've been hosting every Tuesday night is karaoke with cousin Vinny.
Nice.
And so I'm on the mic all night long on Tuesdays, getting people on stage to sing. And that's helping me connect, meet new people, feel part of the community. So I've gotten that going on.
What city is that in?
That's in Atwater Village. Okay. So like right there, kind of between like Burbank and Glendale.
It's every Tuesday?
Every Tuesday night from 9 p.m. to close. So we legit go for 5 hours.
What's the name of that place?
It's, I'm sorry, the High Low Bar.
High-Low Bar.
Thanks for asking that. The High Low Bar, it's right across from the iconic Tam O'Shanter. Like that's like a 100-year-old restaurant, I guess.
Wow.
So across the street from that in Atwater Village is the High Low Bar.
Nice.
So Tuesday nights I'm there, karaoke with cousin Vinny. Been doing that. I am getting ready to launch a new podcast. So I did college radio back in the day before I met you guys.
Yeah.
And that's like a huge part of my life. So I love singing, I love entertaining, but I love what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
I love getting to know people, having conversations and connecting people who might otherwise think that they have nothing in common. And I did that in Sacramento. And I realized during the pandemic, like that's a strength of mine. I was really downplaying myself as an MC and as a host and as a conversationalist. I was so focused on music and pop music and performing that I was downplaying like, dude, people, I've done dozens of weddings. I've done dozens of music festivals as a host, but I always like downplayed myself. So now I'm trying to give myself more opportunities in that way. Because before the pandemic hit, I was applying for a lot of auditions and jobs. And the number one thing I was getting the most responses from was the hosting gigs. And I realized that's a skill that not many people in LA are trying to pursue. They want to be that dancer, that actor, that singer, but not everyone is trying to be a host. And I realized like that's a strong skill set that I have. And I need to like...
You're good at it.
Thank you. And I need to like put that in the forefront. So I'm still doing music, but I'm trying to put some hosting stuff first because those two categories of entertainment intersect all day long.
Yeah. Have you seen some big names come through to the club?
Not yet, or not that I like know. There's been some badass singers who I'm like, they must have toured something or worked with somebody.
Someone,
but like there's some phenomenal people that come in there that are definitely in the industry, but I haven't seen like a person I've recognized yet. So I've been doing that. My podcast, which I'm going to call Living Vicariously with Vince Vicari. I want to put that out by the end of this year. It's going to be a podcast about nostalgia. And so I want to like have conversations like this, but kind of keep it like in this nostalgic past that 'cause I think that everyone has a lot of things in their past that have helped sculpt who they are, but like positive things. But I want to touch on that fun part about reminiscing about like the yesteryears. And I think nostalgia hits really hard with like our generation, especially. And we can go back on YouTube and like go rewatch those commercials or those shows from our childhood or like, you know, so I want to do a podcast on nostalgia. So that's what I'm in the works doing. And then just slowly chipping away with music. Timothy Rhyme, I'll have a song coming out with him later this year on his project. He's doing a project called Profound 916. It's like him and his homie Gabe. They're doing like a rapper producer kind of duo kind of a thing. So I have a song dropping with him, and then I'm working on some new music. I'm trying to drop one new song from me by the end of this year. So
nice.
I'm slowly getting back into it. I'm giving myself grace, but I'm definitely moving forward because this is what I came to Los Angeles to do.
Yeah.
And then just to meet people, and I really want to become part of Los Angeles. Not just the entertainment side, but I want to inject myself into the whole city.
Yeah.
Not just entertainment, but like the city politics, the community politics, like not just, I shouldn't say politics, but just at each level that a city exists, you know, the decision makers, the community, the stuff. Like I want to be part of Los Angeles like I was in Sacramento.
Just be involved, right?
You shouldn't be so self-centered to be like, me, I'm going to be a big star. I'm going to be in Hollywood. Like you can get that support in the city, just in Sacramento. If you contribute and support the city, they will often support you back. And I love doing that, but I think that that's a key to success for people is like, you have to give support to get support. And that's where the ego comes into play, that you can't have that ego leading you.
Yeah.
Right.
You got to recognize that ego and kick it to the back.
Yeah.
And like,
absolutely.
and put people first along with you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that's what I've been trying to do in Los Angeles.
That's powerful,
awesome.
man. Yeah, being of service. No, that's great.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, there's no doubt you're going to do big things, Vince. You know, we believe in you, man.
Thank
you know,
you.
we see
And
the
you've done a lot of
potential.
big things.
Yeah, and you're already doing stuff. You know what I'm saying? And I remember Christina Aguilera retweeted you one time or something, right? Or maybe a couple of
That
times.
was big.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was that like?
That's pretty cool.
That was awesome. That's one of my favorite artists. So to have her retweet me, I think that maybe happened twice. That also just reaffirms me like, hey, one of my favorite quotes is luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. So like with that's like lucky, but I consider it like I've been preparing myself to be able to like have a viral moment on Twitter, but like to know how to work with that and to kind of like deal with the aftermath of something fun like that. I had like a really viral Kanye West tweet when he did his thing in Sacramento and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I was not intending to go viral either time, but it just happened. But it's like me being consistent on Twitter and trying to be present and be consistent in a healthy way. That like I think that opportunity came to me. Like I was recognized by Christina Aguilera. I've been retweeted by Gwen Stefani randomly. I would just have thoughts and just tweet them out.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to be consistent and stay plugged into these communities as much as possible without being burnt out. And so I think that's how those opportunities have come to me. And so people will call it luck, but it's preparation meeting opportunity. If you're constantly working on yourself and working on your craft, that intersection of preparation and opportunity, that just will cross eventually.
Yeah.
So I tell myself that every day. Keep preparing myself, keep working on myself, keep working on my craft, keep working on my connection with my friends and helping each other. And those opportunities will intersect with your preparation. Yeah. And that's quote unquote luck, as some people say it.
Yeah, quote unquote luck. Yeah, exactly. You know, but there's a lot behind that.
Yeah, that's like almost destiny in a way, you know?
Yeah, that's amazing, man.
Yeah.
What was that like, you know, getting like retweeted by Kanye? I mean,
well, I didn't get retweeted by him. It just went viral because
what was it? It was
it was back in 2016, but what happened was I didn't go to the concert. I was just doing my own thing, and I got home, and I happened to Snapchat my friend. I think it was my friend Susie, and I'm like, "What happened at the Kanye West concert?" Like, I didn't even know something had happened.
Yeah, and
she was like giving me like a blow by blow, like bullet point recap on the Snapchat of like what happened. All I did was screenshot that, and I tweeted it. It was like 12:30 a.m., and I'm like, "This is my friend's recap of what happened tonight at the Kanye West concert."
Yeah,
I didn't know. I wasn't there. But she like Snapchat me. I'm like, dude, this is really interesting. So like the journalist in me was like, this is some interesting stuff I should share. So I just screenshotted her chat of like these perfect like 12 bullet points. And I just tweeted it. And it started getting retweeted. I do think I like to credit Lisa Gonzalez, who's a reporter here, anchor here in Channel 3.
Yeah.
Her and I are like kind of like just acquaintances in the industry because we've done a couple of events we're both at together. Yeah. But I'm pretty sure like she retweeted me, and then that got me more eyeballs, and then it just kept going. And then like I didn't even know what happened at the concert or how big the repercussions for Kanye West would become. But I had this like very succinct recap of what happened that night, and it was just the right place, right time. But I had the wherewithal to think like, this is interesting. I should share this on Twitter because this is like really unusual, like what Kanye West did. You know, I had no agenda other than like, this is interesting stuff I think should be shared. Very simple tweet, and it just kept going, and like,
that's awesome. That's that journalistic background you got, right?
Yeah, that's my degrees in journalism. Yeah.
Is that okay? I mean, was that because of your interest in people, or what was your motivation to
do journalism? I started in communications, and then my professors persuaded me to do journalism. I love storytelling, but I love accuracy. I love facts, and I love learning things and knowing things of like what's actually going on. And with journalism, they teach you like how to verify your sources and how to not be part of the story. And I just really learned how I can do. And when I say storytelling, I'm not talking about like just making things up, but like something happens, how you collect data, how you collect what actually happened, and then how you report that to people in a way that they can understand and digest and communicate. And I find that very fascinating because I love conversation. I love sharing information. I love learning. And so that's what motivated me to pursue journalism. And I know there's a lot going on in that field in the broader mainstream media sense. And of course there's always stuff out there that is not fully functional in the way that I think that journalism was at its core. And so that is a very, I know, like a hot topic for people, but for me at my core is like learning the facts, seeing what's going on, and getting that information to share with people, to help them out, to inform them, to support them. That's kind of what motivated me to pursue journalism. And I love, like, the Virgo in me likes to be accurate, likes to be a perfectionist, likes to have everything organized and correct. And that's like what journalism teaches you. Nice. At its core of actual journalism is like, you need to get your facts correct. And you can't just go off of one little thing. Someone tells you something, you have to go every which way to verify. That's actually what happened. What's actually what is part of the story. Okay. So that's what kind of motivated me to do journalism. But it's a wild industry, and I'm glad that I didn't pursue that in a broader sense because, you know, that's going through its, and I'm not trying to defend mainstream journalism, but there's just so much going on that like it's been really convoluted as to like what journalism is at its core. You know.
But even the fact that you just went to Sac State, you got a degree, period. I mean, you had to go through you just don't walk through Sac State and just get a bachelor's. So, I mean, that probably came with a lot of hard work, right? And some sacrifice.
Yeah, it did. And I minored in Spanish, and that's how I got even better at Spanish. Nice. I learned to like read and write really well.
Nice.
So I can like read, write, and speak Spanish. But yeah, a lot of sacrifice because my parents had this certain idea of what they think I should be doing with my life, and they weren't too privy on like journalism. And I wanted to be a reporter. I wanted to be like on television because I'm comfortable with that and I enjoy that, but also like sharing stuff with people. So I did have some like challenges just in terms of family, like not being fully supportive, but I'm like, I'm going to finish this and I really enjoy this. And in college is when my first shot of independence, where I started doing things for me and finding out what really brings me fulfillment. And it was music, it was radio, it was talking to people, it was reporting and storytelling. And that's where I got to really know like, oh, these things I've had, these thoughts I had as a kid, I'm pursuing those as an adult, and it feels good. It feels right. It feels natural. So that's why I pursued journalism and finished that. Not just communications, but like I like learning a skill and like being like as perfect as can be, which there's no such thing as perfect, but I like to be as much as possible, you know? And then journalism kind of teaches that to like, you got to get the story right. And there's no wishy-washiness, you know? So I like that kind of diligence about that craft.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. Now, have you had an opportunity to like meet any managers or agents in LA? Like, what is that like right now?
I did a little bit before the pandemic. Like, I was pursuing any path or opportunity that was laid out before me. And I was talking to like some agencies, but they were trying to sign like social media talent. And like at that time they're looking for comedians. I'm like, well, I am I am funny. Like, I only say that because people tell me that, and I do like to entertain people, but nothing. Like, I had some leads, you know, like I had some lines going, but when the pandemic happened, man, like everything just washed away. I went to some like events for like, I was part of what's it called? CSAC. And then, now I'm part of ASCAP. It's a songwriter, like performing rights organization. So
publishing.
My rep got me into like some events to meet people and get in front of people. And so I was establishing those connections, but when the pandemic happened, those have all faded away. And most of the people have even like moved out of LA because of just, you know, it was just a lot of stuff happened in 2020.
Yeah.
But nothing's on the line right now, but I'm still pushing forward. Like stuff like these podcasts,
Yeah.
it can be so independent that you can do a lot on your own. And I think that's kind of where things are going is I used to think I need to get signed to a record label like Warner Brothers, Universal, whatever. But now I'm learning that's not the only path.
No, it's not.
And independent endeavors is more fruitful and rewarding, and you can do things that are more authentic to you and not have to worry about the constraints of a label or distribution or management. So I'm still open to getting an agent or getting a manager. I think that could really get me to, I would love to get my podcast going, get very established. It's a well-oiled machine. It's doing numbers. And then try and talk to an agent or a manager, like, hey, look at this. Like, can we, what more can we do with this?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Get it onto a network or a streaming service and then try and do that as ethically as possible that aligns with my morals.
Right.
To try and do something more. Like one of my ultimate goals in life, honestly, would be to do like to host the Tonight Show. You know, it's now hosted by Jimmy Fallon. Like I do think I could do a better job than him. I'm going to say that, like, just cause I genuinely love people.
Yeah.
But, I would love to eventually have that kind of a job where I can do music and do a little bit of entertaining. Like to me, that's like the whole, everything I love to do all rolled into one. Like have a variety show.
Yeah.
Like, you know, we'll dance, we'll sing, we'll interview, we'll get sentimental. We'll like, I love that part of like humanity.
Yeah.
So it's like one of my ultimate goals. And I feel like a podcast can help me do that. Cause I can still do music stuff and do music videos and collab with friends like you guys. And like, it's still like part of me at my core of what I like to do.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like my long-term endeavors, you know?
Yeah. Can I make a recommendation?
Talk to me.
NAMM. You heard of it?
It's been on the, I've been wanting to talk about that too.
NAAM?
No, it's NAMM. So it's National Association of Music Merchants.
Okay, no, tell me more.
Yeah,
I think I've heard of it, but I don't know much about it at all.
So, I mean, I've heard about it for years, you know, and my brothers always wanted to go, and I've been
pushing for years.
Yeah, I've always been kind of a little stubborn about it. I don't know why, but we finally like went.
Okay.
And it was one of the best things that we've ever been to.
Life-changing.
Interesting.
Life-changing, and it's so cool just to be in an environment where you're surrounded by all these musicians and people from all over the world.
Not just musicians, the agents, the managers, the label execs, the brand manufacturers for all the different types of equipment, whether it's a guitar, the piano, you name it. The reps are there, the manufacturers, the engineers. I mean, everybody in the music industry all comes to this one place once a year in Anaheim at NAMM.
Yeah, and we ran into people that had been like, you know, I ran into this one lady and she was like, yeah, this is my 35th year. And I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
And people become like a family because they go so often. They see each other so often.
We're going next year. Maybe we all go together.
Okay.
We should meet up over there.
When we went this year, there was 60,000 people and everyone kept telling us this is a small NAMM. We're like, a small NAMM, 60,000 people in one gigantic building. Like, well, how's it normally? Like, there's over 100,000 people and they come in from all over the world. All over the world.
Wow.
But yeah, because it was post-pandemic, you know, when it was our first NAMM, it was like, that was plenty enough people. I was like, wow, this is enough.
Stevie Wonder was walking around with two of the members from Jackson 5.
Wow.
Just Kenny Loggins?
Nonchalant, just walking around.
Just being part of everything.
Just hanging out.
Kenny Loggins was on stage.
Yeah, Kenny Loggins. Yeah, it's just
interesting.
Casually just there.
Yeah.
So anyone can go. You don't have to have a membership or something.
You do pay to attend to get a badge.
Well, yeah, but like you don't have to be like selected or invited. You can just pay and go.
Yeah, it's open to the public.
Okay.
And so yeah, I highly recommend it, man.
Okay.
You know, and we should coordinate because we're gonna go next year and every year after subsequent. We're just gonna go to all of them.
Let me know. I'll be down to like meet up with you guys there.
Yeah, it'd be fun, man.
Hell yeah.
You know, you're gonna meet so many other people that are kind of, you know, in the same like-minded, you know, sort of boat. You know, we're all kind of looking to network and expand and to grow and to learn more about the music business and stuff like that. Right?
That's what they have. They have a lot of breakout sessions where they're led by all kinds of professionals in the industry, and they have panelists going on and Q&A sessions. You name it. It's awesome.
Pretty much any subject that you want to learn more about. You know, they're gonna have like this, you know, awesome like itinerary of all these different things going on.
You
learn about we learned about how artificial intelligence is being sort of integrated, you know, into the music industry and how like TikTok and different, you know, or companies are using AI.
Yeah, more about music publishing.
Or we saw, you know, this company that had this MIDI guitar. It's called Jamstick. Shout out to Jamstick, you know, where you could just hook up this MIDI guitar instrument to your like Ableton or something like that. And you could just pick, you know, whatever's, you know, like different patches you want from the patch bank and play. Like, it's just amazing. Wow. And it's so cool to see. It's like, it can work Bluetooth. you get to see like all these new instruments and just like all the
new technology,
cutting edge
Interesting.
things that are
Okay.
coming out, you know. So it was super fun.
I'm
man.
down.
Plus all this, the free swag too. They give you like
Okay.
free
Shirts
shirts
and bags, and
you know.
Hell
But
yeah.
it was badass. So yeah, we'll definitely have to send you an invite for
Okay.
that one. You know what I mean? I think when's
I'm
the
in.
next one?
I think April of 2023.
April.
Good, I got some time. Okay.
Okay,
excellent.
yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, man. So you know, just kind of boiling all this down. You know what I've got from this conversation, and you could add to this too. You know, is definitely just connection, vulnerability,
Authenticity,
right? And getting yourself out of the comfort zone so that you can grow as a person, and then just perseverance and optimism. You know what I mean? Just believing in yourself and knowing that you have a higher purpose.
self-love.
And so even though you went through a crazy pandemic, you didn't fold. You're like, no, I'm not going back. I came this far, and I'm going to keep pushing forward, and I'm going to conspire with the universe, and then the universe in turn will conspire with me.
Yes.
Yeah. So I love it, man. This is great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Vince.
Totally.
Yeah, thank you,
I
Vince.
appreciate the opportunity, and this has been. Thank you for like extracting this out of me, and just for being great friends, both as fellow artists and just like friends, and like the most basic sense of the word of just like friendship. So thank you guys for being that for me.
And thank you too, man. Thanks for inspiring us to just be better human beings. I feel like just watching you and how you interact with people, how you network, and how you tap in. It's really inspired me to be a better person to do that more often as well.
Thanks,
you know what I'm saying? So thank you again
brothers.
for stopping by. You want to say anything else?
Where
Where can we find you? Like, where do people find you
Yeah,
on
on all the
social media?
So pretty much
website?
everywhere it's just Vince VICARI. So at Vince VICARI. I'm sure you'll like put some text in there, but
we'll
there's
drop it.
Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, whatever is existing out there. But like mainly like Instagram and Twitter. But at Vince VICARI, and also on Spotify and all streaming platforms. You can find my music there as well, and my music videos on YouTube.
We want to do some music together too at some point.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm
I know
totally down.
We've been talking about it for
It's
way
long
too long.
overdue.
but-
Yeah.
Long overdue.
I'm in a much better headspace. I have more perspective to like bring to the table for a collaboration. So when the time is right with everyone, I'm in.
And we're getting better too, So each day that goes by, we're getting better in the studio. So yeah, we're looking forward to it.
Hell yeah.
And yeah, man, tap in with the kid. Great time. I loved it. Thank you so much.
And if you're in LA, come out to
man.
Vince's weekly event out there.
every
or
Tuesday night.
anything he's got going on.
Yeah. Check it out.
Support Vince and support any Sacramento artists out there. Continue to do your best, be your best, and be of service. Help other people, support other artists, and don't expect anything back.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So on that note, we'll just wrap it up and we'll let you get going.
Thanks.
So thank you so much.
Appreciate you,
man.
brothers. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Hell yeah.
Awesome.